guys, and welcome back to Betwixt the Books. We're doing a very different slash trying something new with a reading roundtable this time. It's a thing that we had floated around, I think, at one point before of trying to do like a cookbook thing. So this past Monday, the four of us actually all got together and ate food together, and each of us brought a different dish from a different cookbook. So we're going to go around and talk about the cookbook experience and all of the different things that happened, and also a bit about the food that we ate and whether we liked it or not. Um, will we do this again? Maybe. I don't know. If you like it, tell us, because it could be fun. It's interesting. We didn't know exactly how to do the format of this as it was. So if you have ideas for like a different way on how to present this, that's also cool to leave in comments down below. But yeah, we're doing cookbook reading roundtable this time. There you go. That's what we're happening. So we're gonna introduce ourselves in the order that we like ate our food in, and then also kind of like how that food went. I started with the appetizer. So hi, I'm Michaela. If you don't know who I am, I'm here. I in general like I'm like a decent cook. I'm not like a huge cook. I don't cook all the time. My partner really likes cooking, so he does a fair amount of cooking for us, but I can cook. I do read a fair amount of cookbooks, or like at least like look at a fair amount of cookbooks, and I do also follow a lot of like cooking blogs. And actually my cookbook that I cooked out of is a blog that I've been following for like years and years. So yeah, I'm like relatively experienced in the cooking of this sort of thing.
You're a really good cook.
Thanks.
Like if you
Um,
only keep to like a select set of things, like I remember every dish you've made, like they're so focused and warming. You've taught me to make ramen,
I
like
listen.
properly, not just like the theory of putting it in the water.
Yeah, we're not talking instant ramen.
No, no, no. I mean, yes, we are talking about
Oh,
instant
well, fair
ramen, but
enough.
like refined.
Level it up. You could just
Sure.
have the noodles, or you could,
Yeah.
add an egg and some vegetables and stuff to it to make it, actually a meal and not just salt and noodles.
And just like a little, like a tablespoon of butter or half a tablespoon of butter, it just like really
Enrichens,
softens it on
yeah.
your stomach as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a great cook.
Thank you. I enjoy food. So yeah, I do spend a good amount of time, I think, cooking and feeding myself. I don't know. Yeah.
You
All
have
right.
to.
Hey,
Yeah.
what makes me next?
Yes.
I made a side that we ate as an appetizer, so I'll go next. Um, I am Emily. I've been on a handful of times, so my face is vaguely familiar at this point. I have a slightly complicated relationship with food at this stage of my life, but I do really enjoy cooking as an activity. I find that I like baking a little bit more than I like cooking, but there's only one sweet tooth in this house, which makes baking not sustainable, tragically. Um, but I know my way around the kitchen. My mom was always really serious about food. She's made everything from scratch my entire life. Um, so like I grew up in the culture of that.
Mm.
So even when I don't necessarily do it, it's not because I don't know how.
On to me. I'm Taylor, an old hand here. I really love cooking. I didn't really start doing it until my early 20s, but I grew up in a very food like focused and like curious household. So like I've definitely learned from the tradition of my mom and things like that, and I've really enjoyed that. And I like to think I'm more of the cooking to the baking counterpart of Emily. You know, we collaborate on a lot of things, and like As a result, I really enjoy it, but I do live in like constant frustration that it's expected of me more than like once every other day.
How dare our bodies require us to eat multiple times a day?
I think it's
What
a
do you mean I have
drawback.
to do this every day?
I think it is such a wonderful thing, and I don't like rushing in the kitchen. I just wanna, spend my 2 hours at a very steady pace. And I guess that influences what I choose to cook as well. So my entree was an interesting pie.
Fair enough.
So I'm Gretchen. Hello. Hi. I'm definitely more of a baker. I think baking makes more sense to me because like it's very precise and there are very specific rules and like things that happen. Whereas like I feel like people who like cooking more than baking are like do a lot of it on like vibes. Like maybe just like a dash of this or whatever. And I'm like, my brain doesn't work like that. Okay. We do not just dash a bit of this. It's just like not functionally what happens. But I grew up in a restaurant. My parents own a restaurant in the Adirondacks, and my mom is the chef. Um, and for so I like did a lot of baking there, but I like just never took to cooking. There was like a joke that I could just like set water on fire. And I didn't have to because I lived in a restaurant, like literally lived like above it, right? And so there was like always food around.
Yeah.
When I moved out, and started living on my own, and especially after like I moved to Massachusetts and I got the full-time job at Barnes and Noble, I stopped eating for a little bit because depression. And when I realized that that wasn't sustainable, but also like I like literally didn't have the energy to cook every day. I started very heavily meal prepping, which is something that even though my life is a little bit more flexible, I still do to this day. So I cook once on Sunday for a number of hours, and then I eat that food for the rest of the week. So I actually don't cook every single day. But let me tell you, by Friday, no matter how good that food is that you made, you are tired of it and you will not see it for a real long time.
I
Um,
get that way, like day one of meal prep. It's like such a good discipline that I cannot
yeah,
manage.
I understand that it doesn't work for everybody. And I know there's also ways to do it where like you don't have to eat the same thing every day, but I just like don't have the patience because like again, I don't like cooking. It's just like something where I'm just like, I just need to like not die for the next 5 days. Like I need to provide sustenance.
Yeah.
Um, and this is why I did the dessert. And I cooked out of a cookbook that I've been really excited to try some of the desserts out of because one of the reasons that I also was off food for a while was that I was getting randomly violent. Well, I thought randomly violently ill. And in the past couple of years, I finally realized that I'm allergic to onions. And so I've also been having like, now that I've learned how to like cook around that, having like a renaissance where I can go out to dinner or, and just not be like terrified from the minute I sit down in a restaurant, like, am I going to be ill? And so I have a cookbook that I've been cooking out of, for the diet that I've been using. And we made, I made the dessert out of that. So, yeah, it's me.
So yeah, we should note that some of these recipes were tweaked slightly because of the onion allergy. Gretchen, not only Emily also has an onion
Me too.
allergy. So there was no onion in any of this. Gretchen was the only one that was nice enough to abide by my lactose intolerance, which is honestly
I'm so
fine.
sorry.
It's okay. It's way lactose intolerance is way harder to work around because like every
Please also
recipe.
note that Michaela put cheese in her own dish. Like,
Michaela didn't even respect her own
No.
dietary restriction.
To be fair, it's too hard. It's too hard. I had vegan cookbooks that I could have brought and used, but I'm not going to force other people to eat vegan cheese because there is no good vegan cheese and it just isn't, it's not the same and it would have killed the recipe because of that. Like, I would rather make something that's delicious that most people can eat, and I'll just deal with the fact that I have issues. It's whatever. It's whatever. But like if you ever are like,
We
wow,
all have
lactose
things to
intolerant people
improve.
just really don't care about it. And it's like, oh no, it's just because we like there's no option. Everything has butter or milk or cheese. Like you're left with nothing. And the stuff you're left with has no flavor because it requires the butter or milk or cheese to make it delicious. So it's what it is. But yeah, there were some tweaks made which may affect things if you care about it. It might taste slightly different for other people. We don't know because we did it this way. All right. So the cookbook that I cooked out of was half baked harvest every day. I think this is like her second or third cookbook that she's come out with, but it's a not vegetarian but vegetable forward blog. So like there are recipes in here with meat, but there are also like a good amount of recipes in here that are vegetarian. I have a lot of vegan cookbooks because of the non-dairy thing, but I do like picking up some other ones as you go. And I've cooked a number of her recipes over the years, and every single time it's always like pretty like accessible. A lot of the folks that do like food blog stuff, there's ingredients and things that are hard to find for a lot of people, I feel like, in like a regular setting. Like you're not going to go out and find broccolini at just like a normal grocery store, right? Like it's delicious and you can get it from like a higher end grocery store, but like an everyday grocery store probably isn't going to have all of the different ingredients that you can get for some of these cookbooks. So I feel like I think it's Tegan. Tegan does a really good job of using ingredients that people can find. So I did a salad out of this because I was in charge of appetizers. The salad that we went with was shredded Brussels sprout salad with brown butter walnuts. I went with this one because the only onion in there was one shallot, so I could get rid of the shallot in the dressing. It wasn't even like part of the salad itself. So I didn't think it would be too big of a flavor change in there. And again, it was a salad, so it wasn't super technically difficult, right? You're just chopping stuff and throwing it together. So I can't really talk about, at least in here, of like whether it was confusing, because making a salad is, I would hope, not confusing. I will say that the time that she gave for the salad, it was supposed to be like a 15-minute prep. It took me a little bit longer than that, mostly because I think she started with like a bag of shredded Brussels sprouts, and I had whole Brussels sprouts that I had to chop myself, which took a little bit of time. Because our grocery store didn't have like shredded ones available. So that was fine. The other thing that I really appreciated about this recipe was that for the two ingredients that either might be difficult to find or that some people might not like, she gave alternatives. So the original recipe uses blue cheese, but she gave the alternative of feta, which we ended up using because obviously some people don't like the idea of eating moldy cheese. Totally get it. So she was like, here's another option if you don't want to eat this. I get it. And then there was pomegranate seeds in it, but she also gave the option of dried cranberry, which I think is a pretty easy to find staple in most grocery stores if you can't get pomegranate seeds or you don't want to like try and get the
Pomegranate seeds
pomegranates.
are also expensive.
Right. So like the options given there, I felt was like quite nice of being like, hey, you get the same vibe if you use this, that sort of thing. Yeah, it was pretty easy to make. Again, it was a salad. I wasn't going for difficulty here. Yeah, I think it was good. Did everybody enjoy it? I enjoyed it. I thought it was really
Yeah.
good.
It was a lovely salad.
Yeah. I think so one of the things is like, so with the ingredients list, there was apple, there was the pomegranate seeds, there was the walnuts, there was the feta cheese
Arugula.
and the Brussels sprouts. And what was funny, I think you said this when you mixed it up. It was either you or Isaac, and it was just kind of like, this is fruit with hidden green.
Yes, yeah, it was
Because like after it, we mixed it all together. And honestly, like as someone who's not a huge salad person, and like I don't even really like Brussels sprouts generally. But and then like there was orange juice in the salad dressing too. I was like, this is so good. I'm the one with the leftovers that I've been eating. And like for me to say, yes, I'll keep the salad, it's like, there you go. That's my rating. I said yes.
I did while I was making it go, the ratio of leaf to not leaf does feel wrong, but it like in a delicious way. I don't know. It was definitely like fruit with some sprouts sprinkled on top was kind of how it felt. But yeah, I don't know.
I think
The
it
other
was a
thing
very
too,
well-balanced, crisp, citrusy little thing.
yeah. I don't think I've ever had just like raw Brussels sprouts because I think when I eat Brussels sprouts, I'm usually having like a roast Brussels sprout or a fried Brussels sprout. So
Yeah.
I obviously you can eat them raw, but I don't think I'd
Mhm.
ever had them raw before, and I was like surprised that I actually kind of liked that. They're usually like soft, mushy deliciousness.
Yeah, I love them in any way.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was a good one. Generally, Isaac and I cooked. She has like a I think it was a chicken thigh recipe in here that used like apricot jam to like
Mm.
coat it, and that was also delicious that I had out of here. And again, every single recipe I've done off of her blog has been delicious and great, just a really good option. So I do recommend this cookbook if you haven't picked it up, especially for folks that want to try, like I said, more vegetable and fruit forward dishes. If you want to cut back a little bit on your meat consumption, even if you're not like vegetarian or vegan, it's a good option for you.
I guess that makes it my turn.
Yeah.
So I made my recipe out of the Smitten Kitchen Keepers cookbook by Deb Perelman. We're gonna go with Perelman. This is, I think, one of Taylor's cookbooks, actually. And I've made a couple of recipes out of here now at this point. Last night, nope, on Monday, I made pea feta and mint fritters with a lemon Greek yogurt dipping sauce. They are mostly peas. The recipe is mostly peas.
Like a lot.
Yeah. The only modification I made to this recipe was adding like the babyest splash of heavy cream to the batter at the very end because I think my flour is a little bit drier than the recipe was expecting, and so it like wasn't turning all the way into a batter. It was still too dry. But like when I say babyest splash, I really mean it. But they fried up pretty quick. She suggests to do them like 2-inch rounds, which nah, we went with whole pancakes. Thank you. And they were delicious as far as I'm concerned. I really, really enjoyed it, and I will be making them again. They were remarkably easy to make and like super easy to troubleshoot.
Nice.
I mean, the problem I had was extremely minor and solved immediately, so not much of a problem. But the other recipe that I've made out of this book was the tomato and corn cobbler, which was really interesting and also pretty delicious.
Yeah.
I will say with this one, the only problem I had with that recipe was I didn't blanch the tomatoes because it doesn't say to blanch the tomatoes first, and you really should so that you can peel the skins off, because when you slice them and lay them across the bottom of the pan, like it turns into like the wrapper on a salami.
Yeah.
Like when you were a kid, you'd get bologna and your mom would forget to like peel the label thing off the outer edge. It becomes like that, to be honest. But otherwise it was a delicious recipe.
Yeah. I feel like there's always things like that when you're working with a cookbook. Like the first time you make a recipe, you're like, they missed a step, or this is fine, but if
I
we
think she
did this
assumed
one
I would know
thing,
to do this.
right? Yeah, and that's always a problem. There was one review I saw of one cookbook where recipe forgot to put the sugar in the batter. Like it had the sugar in the ingredients, but when they were like doing the steps, they didn't put the sugar in. And it was like, how can you forget the sugar in a baking recipe? No.
I have to say, this is the one reason why, like, if you can get past the like life story of all of Hobbiton to like get to the actual recipe on a cooking blog, right? I do like I have definitely become the person who like always reads the comment section. And this is not true of anywhere else on the internet, right? Like do not ever do this. But like I always go down to the comment section to like see other people that they've made it and other things that they've done or adjustments that they've made. Um, at the library that I used to work at, we actually had a program called Cookbook Book Club. And so every month, what we would do instead is we would bake out of the same cookbook. And everybody would choose a recipe. And like the librarian in charge of the event would make sure there was no overlap and that we had like a decent amount of, and it was like mostly like retired women who would like show up. And I would just hear them like going after like all these cookbooks. Like, why would you do it this way? Um, so I always remember that every time I mess up a recipe, I'm always just like thinking back to like, baby, it's not me.
Yeah.
And it was like, in case you're wondering about like something that you might gift someone, um, it's not the cookbook that I have right now, but America's Test Kitchen has a
America's
meal
Test
prep.
Kitchen.
Yeah, America's Test Kitchen has a meal prep book that I really, really love. And one year, one of my brothers was living away from home. I like wrote notes. I bought him a copy and I wrote notes about like when I baked this recipe, like or when I made this recipe, like what happened and like did it turn out good or not.
Mm.
So like annotated cookbooks, guys. Someone start
That's
that
so
Etsy shop.
nice.
Yeah, that's actually like really smart. And also I agree as a food blog like scroller person, the comments are like your friend on those because people will be like, honestly, it's great if you add this one extra thing. It adds a whole extra layer and it's great. Because all of us have our own tastes. Like even if this tastes perfectly fine, there's always something where you're like, I would add XYZ so that it would be a little bit more nuanced, or because I like spicy food, maybe I put some hot sauce in here because I feel like it needs some kick or something. Yeah, there's always that little extra step that you can do.
Yeah. As someone who thinks about eating food for 5 days in a row, I would absolutely eat Emily's fritters for 5 days in a row. They were so good. And
Yeah.
I like when you said peas, like peas and feta, I got. And then
Yeah.
you were like, and mint. And I was like, I'm fascinated by
And
this.
Parmesan and like egg.
There was no
Yeah.
parm in it.
No?
No.
Oh my God,
There
so
was no.
savory.
The only cheese in those fritters was the feta.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was really good because like the peas kind of like exploded in your mouth and then you got like the after kick of the mint. And I was like, if you had like I feel like this is one of those recipes that if I was looking through the cookbook, I'd be like, I'm concerned. But like you brought it and I was like, this is so good.
Yeah, mint in a
So
savory dish is not common. I wouldn't say it's unheard of because like mint and lamb, right? Like people use
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
together a lot, but
yeah, the thing is, I've been watching a lot of Chopped.
okay.
I like in the background while I'm working and stuff. I just let it play. I'm in like season 7 now at this point. And so like someone actually did something with peas and mint. God only knows what episode, but like I watched that one a handful of days ago. So it was a combination that like when I read it in the book connected to me as something that can really work while being slightly unexpected. And I love
Yeah.
to bring something that's a little unexpected but makes people just like grin because what do you mean this is delicious? It's primarily peas.
Peas are great. Peas are
I
life.
love peas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. And I feel like we ate it along with my salad, but like good as a side and also good as an appetizer, depending on however you want to do it. It totally was worth it to have that then. Yeah.
It paired really nicely with the salad, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a nice counterpart.
I mean, I full on also could like have probably eaten that entire bit of batter by myself for dinner. So like just I mean, you know, just saying.
Yeah. All right.
I went for something similarly unexpected, I guess. I didn't go into shock or anything, but I was looking through our collections of cookbooks, especially ones I hadn't done, and like, how do you really show off a, you know, cookbook through just one recipe? I wanted to get something with a bit of personality. And a book Emily had recently picked up was the unofficial Studio Ghibli cookbook. And I, I think there's like an odd paradox to it when you start getting into like Ghibli movies being like known for like very lush, beautiful representations of food, but so much of it being very quotidian. Like these are just like everyday, small, simple meals that are like made with care and love. So the cookbook overall, a lot of them, the recipes were just very basic and like very, this is, you know, either these are the daily foods in Japan or have bacon and eggs from Howl's Moving Castle,
Yeah.
which I wound up choosing the herring and pumpkin pie from Kiki's Delivery Service, and they've got not a image from the movie, but their representation. And I thought it was compelling. And I like smoked fish. We've savory pumpkin pie sorts of things. It felt like there was a lot that could go on there. And we swapped in smoked trout for the herring. And, you know, as I was cooking it, it was fun, it was interesting. The cookbook itself, I think, did a very good job of just like going through the steps and representing everything you might be confused on. And I did taste the individual parts and together as I was mixing it and found fine, but like night of, I could not, I couldn't eat it. The fish, just like it was a very pungent fish recipe. I think it was interesting that it was kind of a well executed version of a fantastical little pie from a fictional European country.
Mm.
And it's just kind of like weird and old-timey. So like I enjoyed the act of creation. And Emily made us a wonderful fish stencil and did the decoration. So like that all being said, half of our number did really seem to like it.
Yes, I have the rest of that pie, and while I also couldn't eat it for my own, like I have like food aversion to fish a lot of times. Like if it tastes too fishy, I can't eat it.
Yeah, like
My
our
part
food aversion was kicking off in the same way.
yeah.
The three of us took a bite and went, okay, I see
Mm.
what's happening here. This tastes like it was made correctly and well. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like because Michaela's fiance is not here, I have to be the one to step in and just be like, if you like fishy fish
Yes.
and you don't mind, I think what it is that because like mushed pumpkin is also the consistency of baby food, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like if you have, I was honestly surprised the consistency thing didn't kick off for me because sometimes that absolutely will. But I did enjoy, I thought that pumpkin can be like a very dense flavor, I feel like, but because the fish was smoked, it really you tasted both.
Yeah.
Because like I've made some things with pumpkin and I feel like it just ends up tasting like pumpkin, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard. And then there was like the nice dough on like the phyllo dough on top. So
Although
like
it didn't want a pastry underneath, and it's very rare that I want a pie that doesn't have that, so we went
was weird.
along with it.
If we'd had enough time to par-bake a bottom crust for this,
It
I
would have been
personally
better.
think that would have made the whole thing better.
It would have protected the filling a little more from the heat, and with all due respect, Gretchen, your oven was not performing at anticipated peak oven performance. So like it took longer to like,
that is why I told you to whack it up.
well, yeah, but
There is something wrong with this oven, like
Yeah.
100%. Like I accept this into my life. Like so I'm
yeah,
making
no, we all learn things.
Yeah, no, my oven is not.
Yeah.
I love you, honey, but no.
No, I mean we talked about this. The oven that we had in the apartment that we lived in Newton was like 17 to 23 degrees higher than where you set it. And there was nothing you could do about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just do that sometimes.
And the thing is, like, my broiler is vicious.
Oh, I bet.
My broiler is vicious. So the actual oven capacity of this, but this is also something where like it pays to know your appliances too. And I don't think
Certainly.
people like I certainly felt that way when I was first starting to follow recipes and I was like, why did this not like again, I think it's like the baker mindset too of like, well, they told me to put the brownies in the oven for this long and like it must be my fault if they didn't come out, right? It's like, and then I'm like panicking because I'm like, okay, then how much longer does it go in, like before I dry them out, right? And I've lived here long enough now to understand how this oven works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like I feel like that's another thing where like for anybody following cookbooks who's just like feels very unconfident, like also remember that you need to know your specific appliance too, and that's not either like your fault.
Yeah.
If I may have
Isaac,
one, oh,
I was just
go
gonna say,
on.
Isaac
Yeah.
has already, there's like barely any of that pie left too, just so you know. So
Yeah.
it is getting eaten.
Isaac
It's,
did really enjoy it.
he did, yeah.
Gretchen enjoyed. I think I would say the whole experience was worth it because it put Gretchen in the unique position of having to be the only person even defending my choice of anything.
It again, it didn't taste bad. I just can't do things that taste like fish.
Yeah.
And like that's a me problem, not a this recipe problem.
And,
Like
I mean, I
it's
feel like that's a
they
fairly
created a
common one
pie.
though.
yeah. Like a lot of people have issues with fish, I feel like. That's like a
Don't
pretty
make
average
this
food
if that's
aversion.
not for you. Don't
Yeah.
don't do what I did and say it'll probably be fine.
I mean, I'm very happy though that Taylor truly committed to the bit, you know, really just
Well,
went for it.
the
I
other
mean,
thing
yeah.
too, you read that little bit in there that was like talking about like where this came from in the movie, and the character that
Mhm.
is given this pie also is like, God, I hate this pie.
Oh,
Which is like
God, I
such a
hate when
strange
grandma's stupid pies.
it's such a strange choice to be like, yeah, this pie that is hated by this character, I'm gonna create a recipe for.
That sounds interesting.
Is
I'll
a
make that.
perfect realization. A child would hate this pie
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
a child would hate this pie.
on their birthday.
How could you do this?
Instead of a cake, you get this.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, I come away from it still kind of favorable on the cookbook.
Yeah. That's
It's
yeah.
incredibly easy to follow. It's very like step by step, and each step has a photo illustrating what they mean by like whatever cooking term they're using.
I
Which
appreciate
is
cookbooks
handy.
that do that because there's a lot of cookbooks that are like, do it to this consistency just with words. And I'm like, what does that consistency look like? Like, and they're like, also don't over mix it. And I'm like, you're not helping me here, man.
Yeah. For over mixing, usually when they say that, what they mean is that like the second you are no longer seeing any dry mixture, stop.
Okay.
Like don't just stir it for funsies. Stop. And that's the
I
general
love
advice actually
stirring.
for your
It's so
pancakes
fun.
too, so that the baking soda has a like it actually continues to rise, otherwise they
Yeah.
turn into rubber.
No one wants that.
Free pancake pro tips.
And use sugar.
Yes, remember to add the sugar in.
Yes, for real. The butter. Butter too. Remember the butter.
I've definitely never made that mistake.
Okay.
Rounding it out on dessert.
Yes. So I was excited to cook. I have the same problem that Emily does, which is that even though I love to bake, there is only one sweet tooth in this house. And John's like on this massive fitness kick right now. He lifts. And so when he just gets mad when there's baked goods in the house because he eats them. Um, or they're just like there and taunting him. So I got this cookbook, which is the gut-friendly cookbook, delicious low FODMAP, gluten-free, allergy-friendly recipes for a happy tummy by Alana Scott. This was actually purchased for me by Michaela when she was still working at Barnes, so thanks for that. When I realized that I needed to go on the low FODMAP diet, and I could no longer have onions, let me tell you something. You do not realize how many things onions are in until you cannot eat them anymore. There are things that you would assume should not, for any reason, have onions in them, and they have them. And a lot of people have it like as a base or like, in something like that. And
Mirepoix
again,
and everything,
yeah,
onion, garlic.
but
Yeah.
again, I'm not a
Breadcrumbs.
vibes chef, right? So like I don't look at a recipe and go, oh, I automatically see how I can edit this so that I can take out the onion but still have like a flavor profile in it. That just doesn't come naturally to me. So I need things like this cookbook that do that for me. Another thing that I was having trouble with was a lot of blogs that I was finding for FODMAP stuff were using very specific like sauces or stuff like that that are made for people who have like these types of allergies. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but I don't have those, and they're not the type of thing that is sold regularly in the store. So what I've loved about this cookbook so far is that I've made a number of the mains out of it. And most of them, there have been some duds, but most of them have still been really flavorful, and they don't require, even though it is all of these things, require deeply specialty ingredients, which I feel is also a problem when you get towards allergy stuff. So like, and there's like things like, the basics on the diet, and some things in the beginning here to like talk about low FODMAP specific staples. And there's also like a label reading shopping guide. So this is also a nice cookbook for people who are new to this and like are really not sure like what you could potentially swap out or be careful of, because again, so many of these things randomly have stuff in it that you're not supposed to eat. And you're like, why is there, this in my what does this say right here? Like dried cranberries. Avoid dried cranberries that have been sweetened with apple juice or high fructose corn syrup. Like, why are you sweetening my cranberries with apple juice? What's happening? So just like random stuff like that.
Why are you putting bones in my chocolate?
Yeah, just get out. So this has breakfast, lunch, snacks, mains, desserts. And I've made things out of this, like the sticky chicken bake that is right here. So again, it does have the photo, and you're like, yeah, of course it has the photo. Again, cookbook, book club, past life here. Randomly, some cookbooks don't have photos, and they're wrong. They're bad. Yeah. They shouldn't do that.
Or there's like one photo for every 3 or 4 recipes.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's cagey. That's suspicious.
Yeah. Show me what it looks like.
And then it has the labels for all of the different like allergy stuff that each recipe, so you don't have to guess, right? It tells you, because some of them are not for every single allergy friendly or diet. So it tells you up top. And then, yeah, ingredients and the steps. I found everything that I've made out of this incredibly easy to follow, which has been lovely. But obviously I hadn't made any of the desserts. And one of the issues with desserts is that a lot of the more complicated ones require more time than we had, right? So like if you're going to make your own dough or something like that and you need to chill it, or just different stuff like that. And then Michaela wouldn't let me make the self-excreting pie. So
you really don't have to call it that,
I really do, though.
It's like self-saucing, but at the same time, it's not
self-saucing.
horrible. That sounds horrible. Why would you call it that?
And like some of the
That's
other
what it
stuff in
does.
here
It's
is
just
just like
fruity.
terribly basic. Like there's a chocolate chip cookie recipe in here, and I was like, we don't need chocolate chip cookies. So anyway, I did end up making the dark chocolate and raspberry brownies. So they did end up looking just like that. Um, we did use the dairy-free spread as suggested in here. However, I did not use the gluten-free flour. No one was gluten-free, and I didn't want to buy both gluten-free self-rising flour and then guar gum or xanthan gum. I don't need that. I don't have it. So we just used regular flour.
Yeah.
One of the things that I will say about this is that I don't know if a lot of people know this, but it is really dangerous to not double heat chocolate when you're melting it. So this recipe did call for melting chocolate. And it is very, very easy to burn chocolate. I've done this enough that I felt confident doing it.
And by double heat, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so
The
normally
double
with
boilers, you
double boiler. Yeah, sorry. So like what you do is you have a pan and it has water in it, and then you have the chocolate in a pan on top of that, and it helps like reduce and like more cover, I suppose, the chocolate in like a heat, and it's just it's a softer way to melt it so that it doesn't burn. Because I went to dump the chocolate chips in my pan, and Isaac goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And I was like, "This I know how to do. I don't know how to do much, but this I know how to do." So, that was not in the cookbook, and I do feel like that's a very common mistake people make when they are going to like melt chocolate themselves.
Sure.
So, like, definitely the cookbook did not have warnings or like different things about that. It expected a certain level of knowledge with that. But this was also my first time cooking with a non-dairy spread that we were using, and so that was a little bit of interesting. Like I didn't quite know how it was gonna react, or it actually like melted slower than the chips. It was I'm sitting there going, Isaac's gonna tell me I told you so in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it came out okay.
As someone who
Nice.
has to use non-dairy butter a lot because for whatever reason I react strongly to butter more so than I do to like a cheese. Heavy
so
cream and milk
unfair.
will also set me off, but if I'm eating a baked good and it has a lot of butter in it, I can only have like a bite or two and immediately my stomach is upset. So for whatever reason, don't know why. Yeah, it's definitely not the same as regular butter. It doesn't react the exact same, and a lot of times it's depending on which we used one called I think like Melt or
Melt.
something, which was the one that looked like it was labeled for like baking and stuff versus like a margarine, which I guess you could totally use as well if you wanted to, but yeah, we definitely try to vegan butter there. That
Yeah. I mean, they definitely did not come out like a light, fluffy brownie, right? They were definitely quite dense. Although part of the dense fudginess could have been that I used extra ounces of chocolate because it called for 9 and the bag had 12 in it. And I went, what am I going to do with 3 ounces of dark chocolate chips in my house? So I just dumped them in.
yeah,
I regret nothing.
it's fine. Yeah, they were delicious. They were
They
good
were nice
little
brownies.
brownies and a little bite of fruit every once in a while because there was those raspberries dotted in. It was
The
good.
raspberries were nice.
Usually I don't like inserts in my brownies. Like Isaac always wants to put nuts in his brownies and I'm always like I just want like having that change in texture always throws me off. I didn't feel that with the fruit. Like it was a change in texture, but it wasn't like a kind of change in texture. So, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like because the brownies were so dense, I liked having the raspberries in it because it helped it like have some like extra moisture. I think that really helped them. Because they're definitely not the type of brownie that you could have like a huge piece of, right? Because there is so much chocolate in them. I almost kind of wished that there was like either I had chopped up, it did say to put them in whole. So I put them in whole. Also, there was 3 of us cooking in my apartment kitchen. So I was like, I'm not going to take up counter space to chop these raspberries. But I kind of do wish I had either chopped them up or I had more of them. I think it would have helped.
Yeah. That's fair. So yeah, we did a cookbook book club. I hope you enjoyed us talking about the food that we ate. I'm gonna insert some clips that I have of like the food stuff, so that you can kind of see what ours looked like. And probably, yeah, if you are interested in this, we've debated filming like while we were eating, but I personally not a big fan of listening to people eat. So we didn't go with that, but I also understand that some people would rather like see people enjoy the food rather than just talking about it. So
It made sense to me, but I wasn't gonna fight to eat on camera.
yeah. No, I
I
totally
mean,
get
we
it.
are also, one of the things is we're also trapped by logistics.
Yeah.
And how do you film that and not set off anyone's ick factor with like chewing or anything? Because that is a big thing. And also we did end up like Michaela and I cooked here at my house, and Emily and Taylor cooked at their house, and then we all came here. So we also like Michaela and I also debated like at least filming while we cooked because I have a whole bunch of my kit here. Um, but I certainly loved it because A, I got to see all of you in person, not
Yeah.
just through the screens, which is wonderful. But also I feel like we all tried food that we might not necessarily have made,
Yeah,
you know, just for ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm a
just
big
like a book
fan of
club.
this experience.
So
Yeah, I thought it was great. I'd love to do it again.
Mm.
We really we couldn't make our original kind of filming goal for this and wound up having to scramble as soon as our schedules aligned and we could do it. And I think
Yeah.
that took a little of the fun out of it, but yeah, I definitely love to give it another go regardless.
All right.
So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us as we pilot something brand new for Reading Roundtable. We are always trying to like innovate and think about doing new things, and it is a lot easier to get 4 adults on a Zoom screen than it is 4 adults in like one room.
Yeah.
But this was really awesome. And so if you have any thoughts about how we might film, like if we did this again, ways that we could film it that would be a little bit more dynamic, please do let us know, you know, within the bounds of the technology that we have. We have a full slate of reading roundtables planned for the rest of the year with a whole bunch of both returning, and we also have some new guests that will be joining us. We did a call for new participants, and we're so thrilled to have their energy represented in these upcoming ones. And of course, Michaela and I will be back specifically trying to finish bits of our buddy reading challenge that we haven't yet done with the year fast approaching close. And so we are hoping to have a review of a full cast audiobook coming to you next month as well. So will we meet these goals? Michaela and I don't know, but our guests have confirmed. So we will definitely see you for those and our solo content along the way. So thank you so much to Taylor and Emily for joining us on this adventure, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.